AIO. I just found my wallet that had gone missing in September in my girlfriend's backpack. I still remember the exact moment I lost my wallet. September. It was one of those nights that felt like everything was crashing down at once. I had been at my girlfriend's apartment and we got into a fight. And not just any fight. This was the kind of argument that made me question if we even liked each other anymore. It started like most of our fights did. Something small, something stupid, something that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I don't even remember what the initial spark was. Probably something about me not answering fast enough, or her thinking I was ignoring her, or maybe I said the wrong thing in the wrong tone. It didn't really matter because with her, once things escalated, they didn't come back down easily. She had this habit of getting in my face when she was pissed, like physically closing the space between us so I had nowhere to go. That night was no different. It went from shouting to her pushing me, to her grabbing my shirt, to her nails digging into my arm. It was the same old cycle, but this time I had enough. I called the cops. Maybe I was being dramatic, maybe I wasn't. I don't know, but I did know one thing. I wasn't about to stand there and take it. And I wasn't about to push her off me either because that would have turned into a whole different mess. So, I called. I didn't know what else to do. When the cops arrived, she lost her mind. She screamed at me, called me every name under the sun, acted like I had just betrayed her on the deepest level. I kept telling them exactly what happened, showing them the scratches on my arm, trying to explain that I just wanted her to stop. And after a lot of arguing, after her refusing to calm down, they put her in cuffs and took her away. And that was when I realized. My wallet was gone. I had it with me when I got there. I knew for a fact I did. I always kept it in my left jacket pocket. But when I went to grab it, it wasn't there. I checked my pants, my bag, the floor, the couch, nothing. I turned back toward the apartment and tried to go back inside. The door was locked. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I was standing there staring at the door when one of the officers asked me what was wrong. I told him I needed my wallet, that it was inside, that I was sure she had it. They looked at each other, then back at me. They asked if I had seen her take it. I said no, but I knew she had it. They went inside, searched around, asked her, and nothing. It was just gone. I left that night without my wallet, without my ID, my cards, my cash, everything. And the worst part? It wasn't even the first time she'd done something like this. She had a habit of hiding my things, little things, my AirPods, my keys, my phone once for hours just to see how I'd react. And every time she'd act like it was a joke, like it was funny, like I was the crazy one for thinking she did it on purpose. I tried to move on. I replaced my cards, I got a new ID, but my social security card had been in that wallet. And that was a whole different nightmare. Fast forward to now, February. I was helping my mom. She was moving out of state and I needed my social security card for some paperwork. But I didn't have it, because it was in my wallet. The wallet that vanished. My mom went out of her way to help me replace it. She drove around, stood in lines, filled out paperwork, all while packing up her own life to move. She didn't have time for this, but she did it anyway. Because I needed it. Because I had lost everything when that wallet disappeared. And then Thursday night came. We had just moved into our new apartment. A fresh start, right? That's what I kept telling myself. New place, new chapter. Forget the past. Move forward. She was looking for a $100 bill. Said she wanted a massage. I knew she kept cash in her backpack, so I went to check. I wasn't even thinking about anything else. I just wanted to grab the money so we could get it over with. But when I opened the bag, I saw it. My wallet. Sitting right there. I stopped breathing for a second. Just stared at it. It had been 5 months. 5 months. And it was just there like it had never been missing. Like it had never put me through hell. I grabbed it, opened it. Everything was inside. My ID, my cards, my social security card. Nothing missing. Nothing touched. I said it out loud without even thinking. Well, I found my wallet, but not the $100 bill. And she flipped. Not normal mad, not annoyed, full-on meltdown. She started screaming about how I was being nosy, how I had ruined something, that she was going to tell me she found it, that she was waiting for the right moment to give it back to me, that she was going to surprise me. Surprise me? After 5 months? After letting me replace everything? After letting my mom go out of her way to fix the mess she made? I looked at her and it hit me all at once. She did this. She took it. She hid it. She let me suffer for months just to make me feel like I was losing my mind. And now somehow she was trying to make me the bad guy. She was gaslighting me so hard I almost second-guessed myself. Almost. I walked out. I needed air. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. Because now I wasn't just mad. I was done. I walked out of that apartment with nothing but my jacket, my keys, and my wallet. The same wallet that had been sitting in her backpack for 5 months like some sick trophy. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to not be there. I made it down the block before I even realized I was walking in the wrong direction. My car was back in the lot, but I wasn't going back yet. Not with her screaming through the walls about how I had ruined everything. Not with her acting like she was the victim in all of this. I needed a second to think. I ended up at a gas station. Not because I needed gas. I just needed somewhere to stand that wasn't outside my own damn apartment. I leaned against the side of the building, staring at my wallet in my hands. The leather was worn down, the edges frayed, but it was still mine. Still had my ID. Still had my cards. Still had the receipts from months ago, like a time capsule of the last day I had it. She knew what she was doing. That's what made me sick. She knew what this would do to me. She watched me turn the whole apartment upside down looking for it. She watched me cancel everything, replace everything, ask 100 times if she had seen it. And she lied. Every single time, she looked me in the face and said she had no idea where it was. And then she had the nerve to act like she was doing me a favor by giving it back. I knew I had to go back eventually. My name was on the lease. My stuff was inside. I wasn't about to sleep in my car over this. But I wasn't walking into another fight. I wasn't about to let her spin this around and make it my fault. I was going to take my time, go back when she had cooled off, and figure out what the hell came next. But when I got back, the apartment was locked. I knew she did it on purpose. We never locked the door unless we were leaving for the night. She had probably been standing by the peephole waiting for me to show up so she could lock me out. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Nothing. I pulled out my key, unlocked the door, and pushed it open. She was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, staring straight ahead like I didn't exist. The second I stepped inside, she started. Not yelling, not screaming, just talking in this fake, calm voice, like she was some kind of teacher scolding a kid. She told me I was disrespectful for going through her stuff, that I had no right to look in her bag, that she had been trying to do something nice for me, and I ruined it. I wasn't playing this game. I told her she had no right to keep my wallet from me. She ignored that. Kept going on about how I embarrassed her by accusing her of stealing. Said I was overreacting. Said I was paranoid. Said maybe I lost my wallet and she found it, and I was just looking for someone to blame. That was when I realized she was never going to admit it. She could get caught with something in her hands, with 10 witnesses, with video proof, and she would still find a way to twist the story. There was no point in arguing. I told her I wasn't doing this and went to the bedroom. She followed. She asked if I was just going to ignore her now. I didn't answer. She stepped in front of me, blocking my way. I kept walking. I could hear her behind me saying my name over and over like she was waiting for me to crack. She wanted a fight. She needed me to argue back so she could keep playing the victim. When I didn't give her what she wanted, she threw something at the door. I didn't see what it was. I just heard it hit the wall and bounce off. She started crying. Not real crying. The forced, dramatic kind she pulled when she wanted me to feel guilty. She sat on the floor, holding her head like I was the one who did something to her. And I just stood there staring at her thinking, how did I get here? This was supposed to be our fresh start, our new place, our new life together. But it was already the same old shit, the same manipulations, the same gaslighting, the same control. I thought about leaving, just grabbing a bag and going to a hotel for the night, maybe going to my mom's even though she'd tell me again that she never liked my girlfriend to begin with. But I was tired. I was too damn tired to go anywhere. So I got in bed, turned my back to her, and closed my eyes. She stayed on the floor for a long time. I don't know when she finally got up. I don't know when she went to bed. All I know is by the time I woke up the next morning, she was already gone. And that's when shit got really bad. I could have gotten out. I could have walked up to her, made a scene, demanded answers, but I didn't. I just sat there watching her load her stuff into some guy's car, acting like she hadn't just burned everything down. Then she got in the passenger seat and they drove off. I stayed there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the empty space where their car had been. And I realized for the first time, I wasn't even surprised. I woke up to silence. The apartment was too still, too empty. I knew before I even looked around that she was gone. Her purse wasn't by the door. Her keys weren't on the counter. She had left and I had no idea where she went. I didn't care. I wasn't about to call, text, or ask. Whatever she was doing, wherever she went, that was her business. I had my own problems to deal with. My head was still spinning from last night, from finding the wallet, from the whole scene she pulled after I confronted her. I needed space. The apartment was a mess. A blanket on the floor from when she threw herself down, a cup tipped over on the coffee table, my backpack half dumped out from when I went looking for my keys in the middle of everything. I started picking things up, putting them back where they belonged, trying to clear my head while I cleaned up the disaster she left behind. Then I saw it. Her laptop was still sitting on the kitchen counter. That was strange. She never left without it. Even when she wasn't working, she carried it everywhere, like she was afraid someone would go through it if she left it behind. It made me stop, made me wonder, was this intentional? A trap? Some kind of test? I walked past it, left it where it was. I wasn't about to fall into whatever game she was playing this time. I went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and tried to focus on what actually mattered. Work, bills, the next step. Because after last night, I knew there had to be a next step. I couldn't keep doing this. The fights, the lying, the way she messed with my head just to see how I'd react. I had to figure something out. I checked my phone. No messages from her, no calls, nothing. If she wanted to sulk somewhere, that was fine by me. The quiet was a relief. But then my mom called. I hesitated before answering. She wasn't the type to call unless she really needed something. The second I picked up, she went straight to it. Said she had a weird feeling all morning, asked me if everything was okay. I told her it was fine. I wasn't about to dump all this on her when she was already dealing with her own move. She didn't buy it. She started asking real questions. Where was my girlfriend? Why hadn't she seen any updates from us about the new place? Why hadn't we come by for dinner like we said we would? I gave vague answers. Told her we were just busy settling in. Told her I had been distracted with work. Told her nothing, basically. She let it go, but not before throwing in one last comment. She's always been sneaky, you know that, right? I almost laughed. Of course I knew that. I had been living it. But hearing my mom say it out loud hit differently. We hung up and I stood there for a second staring at my phone, wondering why I had even tried to cover for her. Then I heard a noise from outside. I looked out the window. Nothing. Checked the peephole. Empty hallway. Something felt off. I went to the bedroom and started checking my stuff. My duffel bag in the closet, the drawers, the shelf where I kept my important documents. I knew her too well. I knew she had ways of getting back at me that didn't involve screaming in my face. If she left in the middle of the night, it wasn't just to cool off. I opened the drawer where I kept my backup cash. It was gone. Every last bill. Not just the $100 bill she was whining about yesterday. All of it. I didn't even get mad. I just sat down staring at the empty drawer, wondering how I let it get this bad. I had a feeling there was more. I checked my work bag. My tablet was missing. I checked my nightstand. My watch. Gone. This wasn't just her storming off to prove a point. This was calculated. This was theft. I grabbed my phone and pulled up her messages. Nothing. I called. Straight to voicemail. I went to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the hall, looking both ways like maybe, somehow, she would be there. But of course, she wasn't. I walked to the car. It was still there. At least she hadn't taken that. I drove to the only place I could think of, the apartment she had before we moved in together. She still had the keys. She still had a reason to go there. If she was hiding out, that was the most obvious spot. When I got there, I knew right away she had been there. A car was in the lot, not hers. A different one. Someone else was inside. I parked across the lot, sat there for a second, and tried to figure out my next move. Then I saw the door open. She stepped out with a bag. And right behind her, another guy. I didn't recognize him. She wasn't crying, she wasn't upset, she wasn't acting like someone who had just run away from a fight. She was laughing, talking, walking, like she didn't have a single problem in the world. Like she hadn't just stolen from me. Like she hadn't just disappeared in the middle of the night. Like I didn't exist. I didn't even know what I was looking at. I didn't follow her, I didn't call, I didn't do anything. I just sat there, parked outside her old apartment, trying to process what I had just seen. She had left, not just for the night, not just to cool off. She had packed a bag, taken my money, my watch, my tablet, and got into another man's car like it was nothing. I should have gone home. I should have gotten up, driven back, and figured out how to move forward. Instead, I stayed parked, staring at the empty space where she had been. The place we used to fight, where she used to lock me out when she didn't get her way. It was like I was watching a bad rerun of my own life. I thought about going inside. I still had a key, but I didn't want to give her a reason to turn this into something bigger than it already was. She would love that. She would turn it around, make it seem like I was the crazy one. If I so much as opened that door, she'd be calling the cops, saying I was harassing her, making herself out to be the victim. I wasn't falling for it. Instead, I drove to my mom's. She was still packing when I walked in. Boxes stacked everywhere, half of them labeled, half of them not. She barely looked up when I came through the door, too busy wrapping plates and newspaper. She asked why I was there. I told her I needed to talk. She didn't say anything at first, just put the plate down, looked at me, and waited. So I told her everything. I told her about the wallet, about how I found it in her backpack after 5 months. Told her about the fight, about how she made herself out to be the victim when she was the one who stole from me. Told her about how I woke up to an empty apartment, how I found her at her old place with some guy, how she left like I never even existed. My mom didn't look surprised. She just asked one thing. What was I going to do about it? I didn't have an answer. She went back to packing, muttering about how she knew this was coming. Said she saw it months ago. Said she could tell by the way my girlfriend talked, by the way she acted, that this was only going to end one way. She told me to go back, pack up my stuff, and be done with it. It wasn't that simple. My name was on the lease. My stuff was still there. She still had my money, my things, and who knew what else. If I left now, she'd probably do everything she could to take more. I wasn't about to let that happen. I got back in my car and drove back to the apartment. When I got there, she was home. Her car was in the lot, parked at an angle like she had pulled in too fast. I walked inside, not knowing what to expect. She was in the kitchen, pouring herself a drink like nothing had happened. She didn't even look at me when I walked in. I asked where my stuff was. She acted confused. I told her I knew she took it. My watch, my cash, my tablet. She laughed, actually laughed. Then she told me I was being dramatic. I walked straight to the bedroom, opened the closet, and grabbed a duffel bag. If she wanted to play games, fine. She could have the apartment. She could keep whatever she took. I just wanted to be done. But the second I started packing, she changed her tune. She came into the room, standing in the doorway, watching me. Then she started crying. Said she was sorry. Said she panicked. Said she didn't mean to take anything, that she just needed time to think. I didn't say anything. Just kept packing. Then she switched again. Started yelling. Started saying I was giving up. That I was abandoning her. That I was selfish for walking away. I told her to move. She didn't. She stood there, blocking the door like she was trying to trap me inside. That's when I knew she wasn't just trying to win the argument. She was trying to control me. She wanted me stuck in this cycle, chasing after her, apologizing, begging to fix something that wasn't even my fault. I wasn't doing it. I dropped the bag, grabbed my wallet, and walked past her. She screamed at me, said I was ruining everything, said I was nothing without her. I didn't stop. I walked out. And I knew for the first time I wasn't coming back. I didn't go straight to my mom's. I didn't go anywhere. I just drove. No music, no calls, just the road and whatever came next. Leaving wasn't the hard part. The hard part was knowing she wouldn't let it be over. She had spent too long making sure I was always one step behind, always doubting myself, always trying to prove that I wasn't the problem. She wouldn't just let me go. I pulled into a parking lot outside a grocery store and just sat there, staring at my phone. Nothing from her. No texts. No missed calls. I knew it wouldn't last, and I was right. 15 minutes later, my phone lit up. Not her number. A different one. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. It was her friend. Not a close one. Just someone she used when she needed backup. She asked if I was serious about leaving. Asked if I really wanted to throw everything away over this. Said my girlfriend was distraught. That she didn't know what to do. I hung up. I knew what this was. I had seen it before. The slow buildup. The guilt trip. The poor me routine. It was all part of the plan. Get someone else to do the talking. Make me feel bad. Make me question everything. I wasn't falling for it. I turned off my phone and drove back to the apartment. Not to stay, just to get my stuff. I wasn't about to leave everything behind while she sat in there, waiting to twist the knife a little deeper. I parked and walked up to the door. It was locked. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Then I heard movement. The lock clicked. The door opened just enough for her to stand in the way. She didn't say anything at first, just stared, like she was waiting for me to break first. I told her I was getting my stuff. She didn't move. She said she wasn't letting me do this. I told her again. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't negotiating. I was getting my stuff. Then she smiled. Not the kind you'd expect. Not anger, not sadness. Something else. Like she knew something I didn't. She stepped aside. I walked past her and went straight to the bedroom. The closet door was open. My clothes were gone. I turned to her. She was still by the door, arms crossed, waiting. I asked where my stuff was. She tilted her head, pretending to think, then said she didn't know. I checked the dresser. Empty. I checked the bathroom. My things weren't there. I checked the laundry basket. Only hers. I walked back to her, demanding to know where she put everything. She shrugged. Then she told me I shouldn't have left. That if I had just stayed, none of this would have happened. I had seen a lot from her. The lies, the gaslighting, the games. But this was something else. I turned around and started checking everywhere. The kitchen, the hall closet, the storage bins under the bed, nothing. She was watching me, waiting for me to lose it. Then she said something I'll never forget. Maybe if you hadn't been so nosy, you wouldn't have lost everything. That's when I knew. She didn't just take my stuff, she got rid of it. I asked where it was one last time. She laughed. I walked out. I didn't go back to my mom's. I didn't go to a friend's. I drove straight to the one place I knew I could get real answers. The dumpster behind our building. I parked, got out, and looked inside. And there it was. My clothes, my shoes, my work bag. dumped on top of broken down boxes and trash bags, sitting there like they meant nothing. She had thrown everything away. Not taken, not hidden, just trashed. I didn't even know where to start. I climbed in, pulling out whatever I could. My clothes were soaked with something. My sneakers had food dumped on them. My work papers were ruined. She had made sure I wouldn't be able to just pick everything up and leave. She wanted me to see this. She wanted to make sure I knew that she was in control, right up until the end. I grabbed what I could and threw it into my car. I wasn't done. She had taken enough from me. My money, my time, my sanity. I wasn't letting her get the last word. I drove straight to her parents' house. They had no idea what was coming. I drove straight to her parents' house. I hadn't been there in months, not since the last time she tried to drag them into one of our fights. Back then, I still thought they might be the voice of reason, that if they saw how she treated me, they'd say something. Step in, hold her accountable. They never did. Her dad would nod along, pretend to listen, then wave it off like it was nothing. Said she was passionate, said she was fiery, said I should learn to handle her better. Her mom was worse. She'd act concerned, all soft tones and fake sympathy, but the second my girlfriend started crying, everything flipped. Suddenly, I was the bad guy. I was making her upset. I was hurting her by expecting basic respect. They let her get away with everything. They made her this way. But this wasn't just another fight. This wasn't something she could twist or cry her way out of. This was theft, destruction, a deliberate move to make sure I walked away with nothing. I pulled up in front of the house and barely had time to put the car in park before her dad came outside. He wasn't smiling. He knew why I was there. I told him everything, every detail. The wallet, the 5 months of lies, the stolen money, the things she trashed, the way she stood there laughing about it. He didn't say much, just listened. Arms crossed, jaw clenched, nodding like he had already heard half of this before. Then he turned and walked inside. I followed. Her mom was in the kitchen. She looked up, saw me, and froze. Her dad didn't waste time. He called her name, told her to come downstairs. For a second, nothing happened. Then footsteps. Slow, careful. She came down the stairs already playing the part. No fake tears this time, no screaming, just a quiet little, "What are you doing here?" I laid it all out. Every single thing she had done. No holding back, no room for her to twist it into something else. I wanted her parents to hear it from me first. She didn't deny it. She didn't even pretend to be sorry. She just stood there, letting me say my piece, waiting for me to leave. Then her dad asked if it was true. She rolled her eyes, said I was being dramatic. That was the moment her dad lost it. I had never seen him raise his voice before, never seen him lose his cool. But he did that day. Told her she was a disgrace. Told her she had no respect for anyone but herself. Told her she needed to grow up. Her mom jumped in, trying to smooth things over, but it was too late. She turned on her mom, yelling about how they never took her side. Her dad told her maybe they would if she wasn't always in the wrong. Then he turned to me, said he was sorry. That was a first. I didn't say anything back. What was there to say? I turned to leave. Then my girlfriend said one last thing. Said she never even loved me. Said I was too weak for her. That was it. I walked out, got in my car, drove away. And I didn't look back. I blocked her that night, everywhere. She tried a few times, used different numbers, different people. A message from her friend, another from some random account, all variations of the same thing. How I was overreacting, how I was the problem, how I should just move on. So I did. I moved on. I cut her out of my life, deleted every picture, tossed anything that reminded me of her. She wasn't part of my story anymore. And for the first time in years, I can say it is finally over. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.